Imagine the wisest man who ever lived, sitting on the floor of his own palace, eyes open, breathing, alive, but completely, terrifyingly gone. His servants found him at dawn, Solomon, the king, the man God appeared to twice, whispering names that didn't belong to any human language. Names that felt like they were cutting the air as they left his mouth, and as the last syllable dissolved into the silence, every candle in the room went out. Nobody had touched them. You need to understand one thing about Solomon. When he became king, God appeared to him and said 4 words, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon, young, freshly crowned, said, "Give me an understanding heart, not wealth, not power, not victory, wisdom." God was so moved he gave Solomon all 4, and then, according to ancient tradition, he gave him something else, a ring, the seal of Solomon, engraved with the name of God. So powerful that when Solomon wore it, the entire spiritual realm bent to his authority. Demonic forces could not deceive him, could not approach him, could not breathe in his presence without being named and controlled. With that ring, Solomon summoned all 72 demons of the spirit world, interrogated them, documented their names, their ranks, their powers, then put them to work, building God's temple under the command of a human being whose ring made refusal impossible. For decades they served, and for decades they waited. Ancient intelligences that exist outside of time are patient in ways we cannot comprehend. They didn't attack Solomon at his peak. They watched, looking for cracks, and they found them in the place most great men are most vulnerable: love. Solomon loved foreign women, women from nations with different gods. And slowly, he began making accommodations. A shrine here, an altar there, small compromises, reasonable ones, the kind that look like wisdom from the outside and look like erosion from the inside. 1 degree at a time, Solomon drifted from the source of power that made the ring active in the first place. And as he drifted, the ring loosened, not physically, spiritually, until the night the 72 moved all at once, and it simply slipped off. No struggle, no drama. It fell from a hand that no longer carried the authority to hold it. The panic in the palace was silent. Guards who had survived wars refused to go back inside. A senior advisor walked into Solomon's chamber and came out unable to speak for 2 hours. A young priest went in to pray over the king. He came out completely, permanently silent. Not whispering, not hoarse, silent, moving his lips with no sound for 6 hours. After that, nobody volunteered. Heaven sent one response. Not an army, not thunder and spectacle. Michael, alone. He walked through the palace doors, through the cold corridor, pushed open the door to Solomon's chamber. Solomon was standing at the window, spine straight, perfectly still, staring at something that wasn't there. Slowly, Solomon turned. His eyes were black, edge to edge, the way eyes look when the person behind them has been completely displaced. And from his mouth, in a voice no human throat should produce, came 7 words. "We have been waiting. We knew you'd come." Not one voice, 72, layered, ancient, synchronized, and completely, utterly unafraid. Michael looked at the man who was no longer just a man, and underneath all of it, buried under 72 voices and that bone-deep cold, he heard something, faint, almost gone, Solomon, whispering the name of God. Not because he believed rescue was coming, but because stopping was the one thing he refused to do. Solomon didn't choose this. He just stopped checking the compass, 1 degree at a time. Is there a door in your life you've been keeping closed? Because opening it means facing how far you've drifted. Solomon's story doesn't end on that floor. It ends with a choice. Nobody saw it coming. That's the part that should disturb you most. Not the possession, not the black eyes, not 72 voices speaking through a human throat. What should disturb you is everything that happened before that morning. The years nobody noticed. It didn't start with an attack. It started with love. Solomon loved deeply, genuinely. The man who wrote Love is as strong as death wasn't writing from a distance. He was writing from inside a feeling he knew completely. And the women he loved came from nations with different gods, different altars, different spiritual practices that pointed away from everything Solomon knew to be true. So Solomon did what a loving man does. He made room, a small shrine, built quietly on the edge of the royal grounds. Not for himself, he was clear about that, for the woman he loved, for her dignity, for peace. It was a loving thing to do. It was also the first crack. Here is what nobody tells you about compromise. It doesn't feel like compromise in the moment. It feels like wisdom, like maturity, like the sophisticated thinking that separates great men from small ones. The second shrine felt like consistency. The third felt like diplomacy. The fourth felt like precedent. By the time there were enough altars to foreign gods to constitute a pattern, Solomon's ability to see that pattern had already been taken from him. That wasn't an accident. The 72 had been studying Solomon for a long time, and what they understood was this: you cannot attack a man like Solomon from the outside. He was too discerning, too connected to a God who had spoken to him directly. A frontal attack would have been detected immediately, so they didn't attack. They found the place where his greatest strength and his greatest vulnerability occupied the same space: his love, and they walked through it. Asmodeus came first. He didn't possess Solomon, didn't announce himself. He simply settled into the space the compromises had opened and began quietly adjusting the temperature of Solomon's desires. Stolas came for his memory, not to erase it. That would have been noticed. Instead, he reorganized it, made the warnings harder to reach than the justifications, made the voice of God from Solomon's early years feel slightly more distant than yesterday's political calculation. Furfur came for his prophecy. Solomon had a gift, the ability to sense when something was moving in the wrong direction before the evidence was visible. Furfur didn't destroy it. He contaminated it, fed it a signal wrong by 5 degrees, consistently, patiently, until Solomon's instincts kept producing results that were almost right. And when a man's instincts keep failing him, he stops trusting them. He starts trusting his logic instead, which was exactly where Zagan was waiting. Zagan was the most dangerous one. He didn't destroy Solomon's wisdom. He inverted it, degree by degree. So slowly the inversion was invisible from the inside. The same brilliant mind, the same extraordinary capacity for insight, just rotated incrementally over years so that it kept arriving at conclusions that served the wrong master. Solomon didn't feel himself becoming someone else. He felt himself becoming more fully himself. That's how good Zagan was. And through all of it, Solomon kept functioning, kept ruling, kept writing, kept building. The kingdom didn't collapse overnight. The wisdom didn't vanish. The man didn't suddenly become unrecognizable. He just became slightly less than he was supposed to be. Every year, every compromise, every door leafed slightly more open than the one before. Until the night, the 72 decided the preparation was complete, moved all at once, and the ring slipped from a hand that had spent years becoming unworthy of holding it. The 72 hadn't taken Solomon. They had waited for Solomon to drift far enough from himself that taking him was no longer necessary. They hadn't broken the door down. They had waited for him to leave it open. Has anything in your life changed so gradually you didn't notice until it was already different? A faith that thinned so quietly, you're not sure when you stopped feeling it. That you've been drifting from so slowly, the distance only becomes visible when you look back. Solomon's story is not about a man who was attacked. It's about a man who was moved. 1 degree at a time, using his own love, his own wisdom, his own gifts as the instruments of his undoing. The 72 didn't need Solomon to be weak. They just needed him to stop paying attention. Michael spoke one word, not a command, not a prayer, a number. 1. Nothing dramatic happened on the outside, but inside Solomon's body, something flinched. 1 microsecond of disruption. 72 ancient intelligences operating in perfect coordination, and one of them had moved before the others told it to. That was enough. Michael had been reading the room the way a commander reads a battlefield. Not reacting, not engaging, just mapping every frequency, every signature, every subtle variation in 72 voices trying to move as one. Now Michael knew exactly which signature to follow. He moved, not through the room, but inward, into the fractured, occupied landscape of Solomon's soul. And what he found there was not darkness. That's the detail that hits hardest. It wasn't darkness, it was light in ruins. Solomon's mind, even after years of systematic dismantling, was still the most extraordinary interior Michael had ever entered. Libraries of knowledge stacked to impossible heights. Memories of conversations with God sitting alongside verses of poetry, so precise they still vibrated with divine inspiration. The 72 hadn't destroyed Solomon's mind. They had built walls inside it, locked rooms, sealed corridors. The man was entirely still in there, every piece of him sitting behind doors bolted shut from the outside. And then Michael heard it. Underneath everything, underneath 72 voices and years of occupation, Solomon, still conscious, still fighting, in the only way left to a man whose every faculty had been taken, whispering the name of God, quietly, continuously, not because he believed rescue was coming, but because stopping was the one thing he refused to do. Michael heard it and moved faster. He pushed deeper into the occupied soul, following the out-of-phase signature, through locked corridors, past buried warnings, past weaponized memories, until he reached the deepest chamber and found the architect. It didn't look like a monster. It looked like Solomon's own reflection, perfect, complete, Solomon's face, Solomon's voice, Solomon's bearing. It looked at Michael, completely calm. "You're too late. He already chose this." Michael said nothing, because the demon wasn't entirely wrong. The 72 hadn't broken into Solomon. They had been let in, one compromise at a time. The architect was making a legal argument. "We have a right to be here." Michael looked at Solomon's face on the wrong body and said 5 words. "Where is the ring now?" The architect smiled with Solomon's mouth. And that smile confirmed everything. The ring was inside Solomon, not in the physical world, pulled inward into the deepest part of Solomon's consciousness, buried under everything the 72 had locked away. In a place Solomon himself could no longer reach because every path to it had been deliberately blocked. Michael turned away from the architect, not in retreat, in decision. He couldn't fight his way through this, couldn't negotiate, couldn't remove the 72 one by one. They would compensate faster than he could move. There was only one door. Solomon. Not his power, not his authority, not his gifts, most of which were occupied. The one thing the 72 could not touch, could not invert or bury or contaminate, the part still whispering the name of God. That part was still free. Michael found him. The real Solomon, exhausted, disoriented, barely holding together at the absolute center of all of this. And he didn't arrive with a battle plan. He arrived with one question. Do you want to come back? Not, do you want to be saved? Do you want to come back? Because coming back required something nobody could do for Solomon. It required him to look at everything. The years, the compromises, the open doors, his own willing participation in his own destruction, and choose to return anyway, with full knowledge of all of it. That is harder than any battle, harder than any enemy, to look at the ways you failed yourself and still decide you want to be who you were supposed to be. Solomon was silent for the longest moment in this entire story. Then he said yes. The moment Solomon's will re-engaged, everything shifted. The architect had nowhere left to hide. Solomon's returning coherence was like a light turned on in a room full of things that depend on darkness. The architect screamed with its own voice, the voice it had never once used in all the years it had been inside Solomon. The scream tore through the occupied soul. And for the first time, the coordination broke. Michael moved into that break like a blade into a seam. Have you ever been so buried under the weight of your own compromises that you couldn't find your own voice anymore? Solomon was there, the wisest man who ever lived, and he was there. And the thing that saved him wasn't power, wasn't the ring, wasn't Michael. It was a choice, made from the weakest, most broken place he had ever been in. Yes, I want to come back. That's the whole weapon. The demons didn't leave quietly. Each one came out fighting, not for victory that was already gone, but for terms. The right to scatter rather than be bound again. Michael gave them nothing. He named every single one as it left, because naming is binding. And Michael carried that authority in the absence of the ring, the way a commander carries his rank even behind enemy lines. 71 left fighting. The architect left last. It didn't fight. It walked to the threshold slowly, turned back one final time, and looked at Michael with an expression that had no rage in it. No defeat. Patience. Michael held its gaze and said nothing. He closed the door. The cold left the room first, all at once, like a breath finally released. Then color returned to Solomon's face. His hands began to tremble, and his eyes. The black receded slowly, like ink dissolving in water. Solomon's knees buckled. Michael caught him. For a long time, Solomon said nothing. Then he looked at his hand, the finger where the ring had been. Skin raw, marked, carrying the evidence of a long drift rather than a single night. And the first thing he did was weep. Not from pain, not from relief, from recognition. His brilliant mind, finally clear, finally his own, looking back across the years and seeing exactly how it had happened, exactly where each door had been opened, and exactly who had opened them. Him, his love that became accommodation, his wisdom that justified everything, his gifts turned against him not by force, but by the slow, willing surrender of a man who stopped paying attention. After a long time, he looked up. How long was it running? Michael told him. Solomon closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had shifted. Not bitterness, not hardness. The expression of a man who has decided a scar will be a reminder rather than a wound. He stood slowly, looked at Michael, and said the only thing there was to say. "Write it down, all of it. Make sure they know how it starts. Not the possession, not the 72. How it starts. The first shrine, the first compromise, the first door left open, the first degree of drift that felt like wisdom and functioned like surrender." The most dangerous part of Solomon's story is not 72 voices speaking through a human throat. It's the moment a good man built a small shrine for a woman he loved and told himself it didn't matter. Where are you drifting? What compromise have you been calling wisdom? What door have you been leaving open and telling yourself it's fine? The 72 are not waiting for you to be weak. They are waiting for you to stop paying attention. Solomon picked up his ring. The question is, what are you going to pick up?